We had to figure out a way to water our plants efficiently and on a consistent schedule every week. There were a few ways that we considered to do this, but the one that we chose were using 16 irrigation lines, 2 per each bench. There were 60 emitters per line, each placed into the pots of the plants. They would be run 3 times a week for 5 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they were set to water all 120 plants per bench every week. The crops that we produced and sold this semester were Gerber daisies, echinacea, dianthus, snapdragons, chrysanthemums, and succulents. We had strawberry, chardonnay, and autumn cultivars of Gerber daisies. We had green, golden yellow, and orange sunset cultivars of echinacea. We had crimson eye, strawberry, and crimson pelleted cultivars of dianthus. We had white, sunglow orange, and scarlet cultivars of snapdragons. And we had white, jubilant red, and ditto dark pink cultivars of chrysanthemums and flow succulents. And there were 90 of each crop. For our poinsettias, we grew 2 cultivars. We had Freedom Red and Freedom White, and there were 300 of each cultivar for a total of 600. There were 2 ways that we used to control the height of our plants. The manual way that we used first was through pinching. We pinched our plants 8 weeks before our plant sale date. This controlled the plant's height and it encouraged vigorous plant growth in the leaves and other parts of the plant. For chemical control, we used a drench application of the PGR cyclocel. This PGR slows stem elongation and it encouraged our plants to be wider and more compact. For poinsettias, they require a certain amount of daylight hours to maintain their vegetative growth, and without these daylight hours, they will enter into a reproductive stage, which is not what you want. So at the onset of daylight savings, we had to start using supplemental lighting to practically elongate this daylight period so that our plants would remain vegetative and not reproduce.
For our irrigation system, we actually had to split it into 2. And the reason for this is because we are providing 2 different fertilizer concentrations for our different crops. For our snapdragons, echinaceas, chrysanthemums, dianthus, Gerber daisies, and succulents, we prepared 3 gallons of 150 ppm nitrogen stock solution of Jex 15-5-15 fertilizer. And for our poinsettias, we prepared 3 gallons of 350 ppm nitrogen stock solution of Jex 15-5-15 fertilizer. And this stock solution was injected into the irrigation system via a dosatron at a 1:100 ratio. And basically what that means is for every 100 gallons that is pumped through the system, 1 gallon of fertilizer solution is injected. So throughout this whole process, we have ran into pest and disease, and some that I can recall are on our echinaceas. At some point, we had some sort of plant disease. I can't recall what plant disease it was at the moment. And I know on our dianthus, at one point, we had spider mites real bad, like really bad. And we also had caterpillars on our Gerber daisies at the beginning, and they were eating up the leaves. And I think we did have aphids also on our Gerber daisies that we had to treat. And then our biggest problem has been the fungus gnats. The fungus gnats have been the worst. It's like you can't get rid of them. But thankfully, Pam has always came through for us when it came to our pest and disease needs. So I want to give a shout out to Pam for always coming through when we needed her. For the caterpillars, we just went through and picked them out and killed them. But for the aphids, the fungus gnats, and the spider mites, I know Pam came and treated those with pesticides. For general maintenance, we usually would just come in and look for dead leaves and take them and remove them and dispose of them, or weak stems that have broken off, and we dispose of those. And one practice that we did every Friday was we measured the pH and EC of 3 randomly selected pots off of each bench. And we basically just did this to make sure that the pH and ECs of the plants were in the ranges that we wanted them to be. And I'll go over that later. And we did this through the pour through method. And I'll explain that later also. Another general maintenance practice that we had was sometimes we would come in and plants would be either dry or bone dry, and we would go through and hand water. And it was just sometimes that the emitters were clogged, so they weren't putting out water, or they weren't putting out the right amount of water. And so sometimes we would just come in and just make sure that all of the emitters were working, just to make sure that the efficiency of our irrigation system stayed up to par. So another general maintenance task that we performed closer to the plant sale date was deadheading, and that's basically removing the dead flowers from our plants. And I remember this was a very tedious task. I remember the lab before our plant sale, we had started and we didn't get finished. And I remember some of us having to come in before the plant sale just to keep deadheading to make sure those plants look good for the plant sale. So to measure our pH and EC, we use the pour-through method, and the pour-through method involves you fully saturating the substrate of your plant. And once you fully saturate it, you'll let it drain to where it's barely dripping, and then you'll get 50 milliliters of just regular distilled water, and you'll pour it into your plant and let it leach out into a dish. And you'll collect that water in a dish and put it in a cup and get your pH and EC meters and measure the pH and EC. For our poinsettias, we wanted the pH to be around 5.5 to 6. For our other crops, we want the pH to be around 5.5 to 6.5. For our EC for our poinsettias, we want it to be around 2.5 to 4.5. And for our other crops, we want the EC to be around 1.5 to 2.5. So yeah. So in conclusion, I really enjoyed the greenhouse type experience. It's just something about being in the greenhouse and actually working with the plants and actually applying the knowledge that you use in the classroom and using it practically. And I can assure you that I'm leaving this class with knowledge that I can utilize in my future career, because in my future, I want to become a greenhouse manager myself. So this class has really opened my eyes and taught me a lot that I plan on using in my future career.
This class was a very rewarding experience, and I am very proud of the plants that me and my classmates grew. I'd like to thank the teachers and the TA for making everything go smoothly and teaching us so much valuable information, and I am thrilled to have had the opportunity to learn so much. Thank you.